we have failed miserably. As an organization, a government body, they can do way more than what they're doing. I would definitely tell my child, there are condoms available, use them.
Equality, justice and hope for our future, our children. Chandi, everyone in Sri Lanka knows you and internationally as Mrs. Sri Lanka 2016. And with the crown comes certain duties, particularly to work with children as part of your job protocol. Is there any specific reason other than your duties that attracts you to child protection?
In fact, there is. I would say that's my son. He schools in one of the international schools here, point of his life, in fact. He had this thing that was happening in school, that he was in fact emotionally abused by a few teachers in school, which actually I was devastated with that experience, and I was just, I just couldn't, in fact I just couldn't take it as a mother, and that really affected me, my stability, my day-to-day life. It affected me into a level where I started thinking like I've been this kind of a character and it's happening to my son, and there was a time that I was really helpless. Then I realized he has a mother that could do something. There are so many children that is just been unheard. So what can I do for them? So that actually led me into a level where I started speaking to children. I started going around and talking to them in different levels, different languages as in not languages, the language that they understand, where I can connect because I have a son. I knew exactly how I can relate to them, their issues, and I believe that's how I really got involved in this level into the issues that children are facing.
Well, we're very sorry to hear about your son. Hopefully he's okay now.
He's okay now, but there was the time that he refused to go to school. There was a time that I really didn't know what to do as a mother, and I had the capacity to get involved. I had the capacity to get my son pulled out of that. I had the capacity to stand up to that abuse. But there are a lot of mothers who does not have that. There are a lot of children who does not have mothers who would do that for them.
It's a very challenging thing to speak on behalf of your children because you don't want to get cornered. That's one thing that happens.
Exactly. In fact, I was one of them, I would say. At one point, I was just telling my son, maybe, they are just doing it, maybe that's the right thing to do. You just don't really think about it. Maybe that would be the best thing for you. And I was thinking, my God, I am getting my son to accept it. Mm-hmm. Which is not what I should do. He comes to me because I'm his mother. He expects me to do something for it, and I'm telling him to adapt to that. That's not right. I said, no, you're not going to do that. I'm just going to stand up to this. And I was like, it doesn't matter. They categorize me as a different person, or they categorize me as into a rebel mother. It doesn't matter to me. What matters is that my son is happy at the end of the day. My son has that mentality that he could go to this school. So I said, I'm not going to change the school because of a teacher. No teacher has the right to abuse a child emotionally or physically.
Absolutely, I agree with you. Can't falter on that. But I know also that whilst we were having an unofficial chat, you said that you've been working with so many projects and you also had experience working with NCPA. But at the moment, official government statistics reveal that a child is sexually molested every 2 hours in this beautiful paradise. Do you feel that NCPA is doing adequately, doing enough to protect our children?
I would say no. I strongly put my foot down and said no. If I can do more than my capacity or my capability, they've been a government organization, I think they can put up their foot and do much more than that to protect children. This is a country that has only 22 million. Out of 22 million, how much of children you would have? If you can't represent that number of children, you shouldn't be there. And the other fact is, I'm not sure if the statistics are adequate.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
I
have that doubt.
It's estimated.
I have that doubt. The rest of the children in this country, maybe they don't have, but homes, they have the number of homes in Sri Lanka. They must know how many children in each home, how many children are isolated in these places, who is responsible for this. Every government body has sub-bodies in each district. They are having responsibility to look into these things. It is their responsibility is not to sit in the chair and fill the forms, which every day happens. What are they writing in fact? They must get into these spaces physically, looking to these matters. If that happens, they will not say every 2 hours a child is being molested or physically or emotionally abused. They cannot say that. If they are having this status, that means they have failed miserably. They must step down. My belief is they must step down. Let somebody who can do that step into it. It doesn't necessarily have to have the qualification, a paper qualification to sit there and do the job. Let the people who have the heart to do it, put them there. I think they will do a much better job than who is there, who's given the statistics and says, this is the statistics we have. Are they there to just bring up the statistics?
So speaking of the people who are authorized to do the right thing, I think last year there was a huge uproar about the sex education curriculum, the Hate Atpota, and due to the objections of a very few, it was scrapped. But I know that you have very strong views on sex education. What are your views?
I would say this very few who has been talking about bringing this down, what do they know? The technology is developing. The world is going forward. We are not going backward. We can't think about what happened 100 years ago, or what happened when we were children, or what happened when our mothers are there. We have to think about what's happening now, that they have the capability of checking or looking into the social media. So the development is as such, but we are so way behind and said, you take this out of the curriculum and you can safeguard children. How would you do that? What education is provided now is reproduction. Can reproduction stop children from getting abused? Will it teach our children what rights you have? Will it teach our children what consent is? Will it teach our children that you can say no to these things? Will it teach our children that you have a right to speak up, you have a right to go and talk about any wrong act from an adult? It is a responsibility of every adult to sit down and tell their children now. It is not a time that how it happened in our time, it is different. You all are all exposed to so much of things that's every day published in social media. What social media gives is not the concept that you have to follow.
I saw one of your articles, a very bold statement that you had made about if you had a daughter. Would you like to expand on that?
Yes, of course. What I'm saying is, as a mother, it is my duty to look after my child. If I can't tell my child what is right and wrong, and if I cannot protect my child, if I leave the protection of my child into another unknown man's hand, what mother would I be? I just have to tell my child, I will not be able to, no mother can stop what's going to happen. No adult can stop what is going to happen. We've been teenagers, we've been at that age. What our mother says would never stop us from doing or stop us from that act. Only thing that helped us is what is right and wrong and what we can do to prevent certain acts. That is the knowledge we have to give our children. How you can protect yourself, what you can say, what you cannot say, how you have a right to say no if you don't want it. And if they want to go ahead with it, they would do it. But then they have to know how to protect themselves from the outcome. They must know what it is. So as a mother, it is my duty to say, I cannot continuously say, don't do it, don't do it. They will do it. I just have to say, these are the outcomes of your actions. But you have ways to prevent from getting it worse. For that, there are things that you can use. If at all it comes to that, you have to use it. I will never be a mother where my child would come home pregnant without a father.
So what kind of things are you referring to here?
I would definitely tell my child, there are condoms available, use them. They'll have to use it. You cannot just hide and say, you know, it is in the pharmacy covered in a section and says these things are covered. Oh, okay. There are parents who work so fast passing the section that has condoms where kids knows what those things are. You think the kids doesn't know what those things are?
One might now accuse you of saying, oh, she's asking all the children to go and have sex with a condom.
Exactly my point. This is what one of the feedback that I had was, they probably would be thinking that I'm asking children to use a condom and have sex. For God's sake, use brains. I'm not asking children to do so. But if I tell them not to do so, will they stop it? Has it stopped? How many? The number of young mothers in Sri Lanka are increasing from the age between 10 to 18. Why is it happening? It's because you have not provided the proper education. You have not told them that you can, if at all it comes to that, you have an option to stop from getting pregnant. I'm not asking them to use it. I'm not asking them to go and have sex. What I'm saying is, if
you're
it comes
advocating
to that,
safe sex education.
Exactly. The moment I was sent out of my safe place, I was like, wow, I'm free, I can do anything I want. That is exactly the mentality all these kids are going to have. However much we say, we would know, I would do what I want. When that happens to them, they must know when to prevent from getting the things worse and coming home with a child. Would you be a mother who tell them what to do and what not to do, or accept a child without a father, with a child? So you have to make that decision.
I agree with you. Thank you for that insight. Now, here's a tricky one for you now. So we are celebrating 73 years of independence. We talk of leaving a better country for our children, and we talk of our children being the future of our country. Yet we are failing miserably to protect them. So what one piece of advice, a recommendation, can you give to the government, and one recommendation that you can give to the citizens to protect our children?
Well, that's a good question. I would say for a country's economy to develop and for us to go higher in what we are now, you cannot just, the infrastructure development will not take us anywhere. The country's citizens need to develop. For us to develop, there are certain aspects that you have to improve. So when it comes to children, we all say they are the future, they are the future. Where is the future they have? If every child is getting raped, if the people who is responsible to look after these children are selling the children, how are they going to be the future of our country? They are going to be children who hates, who has hatred, who has jealousy, who has anger building in them. So how are we going to give this country to them? What are we going to expect from them? You think they will take our country into a different level? No. It is going to stop from there. It's going to pull us back. As a government, it is time to step up and think whether they are suitable to carry out in these positions or not, to safeguard our children. If they are not suitable into this position, they should have a backbone to kick these people out and put people who has a passion to look after children and bring a proper propaganda for this. Not just what was brought 10 years ago or what was brought 15 years ago, which is in those books, they still follow. That's not going to work with these children. We every day hear, especially the safe homes these children are at, that children are being sold. So these are the places that children are supposed to be protected. So the people who are there has been there for ages, and it has become their private property. They can use it as a, mind my language, they are using it as a whorehouse. That's not what they must do. They are an authority above them. Are they ever been stepped into these places? I doubt it. Have they ever know what is happening in these places? Do they know where they go after they leave these safe houses? None of these questions have been answered. So I am telling the government, you cannot do this anymore. You will celebrate 73, 74, 75 till 100 years of independence. Where is the independence? Independence is every person in this country must have their human rights. Do they have the human rights? Forget about us, we have a voice. The children does not have a voice, so where are their rights? The rights has been set down by all these organizations. Basic human rights, they need to be preserved, protected. Their childhood has to be beautifully carried out as a child who has to embrace it. Well, in that case, we should not be happily celebrating 72 years of independence. We should be crying there and say, we have failed miserably. We have failed to protect our children. We have failed to protect our female gender. We have failed to protect what is required as a government or a governing body in this country. Our duties has been neglected. The second thing is, it is time to have proper statistics about this. And as a society, we must act more than this. You know, you would think about your child and you will protect your child. You just have to think, is your child protected if the society is not? You can't just be a mother or a father who's always behind them. They go into the society. Is the society safe for these children? So then the society is what? Society is us. We make the society. If we are not there, if we are not acting as a society to safeguard this, it's not going to save your child or my child, because our children are not going to live our life inside this house. They are outside. So then unite as one. Safeguard this, safeguard the people. You use the social media. If anything you see, don't just walk blindly. Take action, put your foot down and says, you can't do that. The voice, that is the problem of our people. They don't voice. They're so closed up. They don't have the strength to speak up because they think we would be penalized. No, you won't be. There are people who will support you. Just put up your voice and says, this is wrong. When that happens, the society will be safe. If the society is not safe, we cannot say our children are safe. I can't protect my child in this. So I would say we have to unite as one team to safeguard our children. So for that, we just have to come together.
Today we were in conversation with Chandi Aluwihare, Mrs. Sri Lanka 2016.
Life Traveller Reader's Digest Barge YouTube Nalikawa